You are about to enter a world of dreamscapes and nightmares. A world where the surreal is real, and you will encounter things humanity was never meant to know. Prepare to have your fragile illusions of reality shattered as you cross over into the nightmare realm.
Whispers in the Dark. I used to love the outdoors. The smells and sounds of nature once soothed me and made me feel at peace. Now, the very thought of going into the woods fills me with an overwhelming sense of dread. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. My name is Marcus Downing. I own a small cafe in Long Beach Island, New Jersey. We're only open in the summer, and since we don't make enough to support me year-round, just from 3 months of business, I do catering in the off-season. I'm able to use the kitchen at the restaurant, which is called Vittorio's, after my grandfather, who was also a restaurateur. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend Amy and I broke up. It wasn't a bad breakup. We're still friends. We just drifted apart. We both wanted different things, and hey, it happens. But the breakup made me take a look at my life and kind of take stock. I decided I need a little time away to recenter myself and prepare to go from one stage of my life to another. It was the off-season and the restaurant was closed, so it was easy to get away for a little bit. I went on Airbnb and found a little cabin in the Pine Barrens. It was secluded, and someplace I would definitely not have to worry about my friends just dropping by. I could be alone and do some real soul-searching. It was perfect. Or so I thought. When I first got out to the cabin, everything seemed fine. The cabin wasn't in the best of shape. The pictures must have been several years old, but it was still in decent enough shape. The place was a bit dusty. I doubt it gets rented much, being out in the middle of nowhere, but nowhere is just what I was looking for. I was able to park my truck right outside the cabin. It had a dirt driveway off of the main dirt road. I got there just as the sun was starting to set, so I brought in my stuff and decided to have something quick to eat before getting some rest. Figuring there probably wasn't a fridge, a correct guess might I add, I brought canned goods for the trip. I opened up a can of Franks and beans and heated it in a small pan on a rack in the fireplace. After dinner, I went to bed and pretty quickly drifted off to sleep. My plans for a restful sleep, however, would be short-lived. I woke up in the middle of the night feeling like someone had walked over my grave. I thought I heard something, like whispering, coming from outside the bedroom window. I looked out into the night and saw nothing but the forest. Then I heard it again, and a chill went down my spine. It was that same whispering. And I thought I was crazy, but it sounded like Amy. I couldn't see where it was coming from. I also couldn't tell what she was saying, even when I tried to strain to hear and concentrate on the sound. Then I was sure I had lost my mind, because I thought I saw Amy standing by the tree line, reaching out to me, beckoning me. I rubbed my still half-asleep eyes, and when I looked back, she was gone, as was the whispering. I figured I must have been coming out of a dream, and it blurred with reality while I was waking up. If only I'd realized the truth, I'd have gotten out of there right then and there. I went back to bed and tried to sleep, but I was still too unsettled by what happened to fall back to sleep. I just laid in bed, listening to the sounds of the crickets chirping outside. In the morning, I decided to put the previous night's weirdness behind me and enjoy my trip. I went for a hike and saw some really pretty birds in a nest up in the branches of a pine tree. They were a family of robin redbreasts, a mama bird, and what looked to be about 4 babies. I stopped and watched for a few minutes while the mama bird fed the babies. She would chew up the food and then spit it into the mouths of the babies. It was gross, yet kinda cool at the same time. Not much else happened that day. I went back to the cabin for lunch, and had some canned spaghetti and meatballs. I didn't even bother to heat it up, just ate it cold out of the can. I relaxed, did some fishing, caught up on some reading. It was a really nice day, and I felt relaxed and happy. The day went by without incident. That night, however, was a different story. I was awoken the same way as the last night, with a sense of uneasiness overtaking me, and the sound of whispering in the distance. This time, the whispering was clearer, and it did sound like Amy. Unlike before, I could make out what she was saying. "Come to me, Marcus. Come to me," she repeated over and over in that same hushed whisper. I looked out the window, and there she was by the tree line. She was wearing a white nightgown and was again beckoning me with her arms to go to her. It's hard to describe, but although I knew logically that that wasn't Amy, I still felt compelled to go to her. Before I even realized what I was doing, my hand was on the front doorknob, and I was turning it. I managed to snap myself back to my senses and shook my head to try and clear it as I let go of the door. I decided it was time to leave and started to throw my things quickly into my bags. As I was hurriedly packing, I heard a loud crashing sound outside. I ran and looked outside to see that something had smashed in the front of my truck. I wasn't going to be driving out of there. Now that my truck was out of commission, I stopped packing. I knew that if I was going to get out of there on foot, I was going to need to move quickly, so taking anything non-essential was not an option. I grabbed the axe I used to chop firewood and headed out of the cabin. I started to run towards the dirt road and away from Amy, who, despite being quite a distance away, sounded like she was right behind me as she continued to whisper for me to go to her. It was hard, but I think the adrenaline coursing through my veins helped me fight the compulsion to go to whatever was impersonating Amy. I didn't get too far before it felt like something hit me in the back. I fell, and as I looked up, I saw Amy standing over me. She smiled and reached out towards me. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and swung my axe with all my might at whatever that thing wearing Amy's face was. The creature wailed as the axe took off its right hand. What sprayed from the wound wasn't blood, but a thick purple ooze. When I looked at the creature, it no longer looked like Amy. What stood before me was a tall creature, about 7 or 8 feet tall. Its skin was gray and leathery. It looked emaciated. You could see its bones under its flesh. It had wisps of long white hair sprouting in a few spots on its head. Its open, still wailing mouth was wide and filled with 2 rows of sharp teeth. And its eyes, its glowing red eyes, seemed to look right through me. I'm sure you've heard of fight or flight. Well, I experienced it in that moment, and I fought. I swung that axe again and again, each time embedding it in the creature's torso. Each time the beast howled in pain. I wasn't in control of myself as I swung again and again. The creature fell and eventually stopped wailing as the light faded from its red eyes. I still kept swinging for a few moments until the adrenaline faded and I finally dropped the axe. I stood there, bent over, exhausted, and panting for air over the fallen creature. I looked down at it, and I just could not believe what I was seeing. I took out my cell phone and called my brother Darren, and about an hour later he showed up. I met him at his truck and told him about what happened. He looked skeptical. I took him over to where I left the creature, but it was gone. Only the axe lying on the ground remained, its blade still covered in purple ooze. Darren thought that I had too much to drink, despite my protests of not having had a drop. We packed my stuff up into his truck, hitched my truck up, and got the hell out of there. I've never been camping, gone anywhere near the woods, or even so much as gone to a park since what happened at that cabin. I'm not sure if the creature is truly dead, or if it managed to limp away to lick its wounds. My only advice is that if you wake up in the middle of the night and hear an inviting voice enticing you to go to them, don't. Or the whispers in the dark may just be the last thing you ever hear.
I hope you've enjoyed your journey into the nightmare realm. Congratulations. You've returned to the safety of the real world. Haven't you?